So good morning, all of you. First of all, thank you for joining for this session. And I am really delighted that we have a very good panel of speakers today, well experienced from the industry, and also an entrepreneur with us. So before starting set the ball rolling, I would first like to introduce Solution Buggy. So my name is Vikas Mandral, and I am co-founder and director of Solution Buggy, an online platform that connects small and medium-scale enterprise with the subject matter experts. We have done more than 1,500 projects, and we have around 60,000 industries, which means organizations and prospective entrepreneurs looking to start their business on one hand, and the other hand, we have 10,000 experts with us across multiple functions. Our platform runs in three different dimensions. The first dimension is of geography. So we cover all the geographies in India. Although the southern and the western cluster is quite strong, but then we have customers, we have industries who have benefited from our expertise in east and in northern side also. On the second dimension that I'm talking about is about the segments we cater to. So everything in manufacturing is part of our job. You talk about pharma, chemicals, food processing, packaging, and of course aerospace and defense, for which we are here. The third dimension that we are talking about is about the function. So we cover all the topics or all the challenges that a small and medium scale industry or organization or a manufacturing organization can face throughout its life, be it the start of their operation, be it product development, or very commercial or financial side, funding, mergers and acquisitions. So we have done almost 1,500 projects. So we started this initiative last month of doing 5 webinars specifically to this sunrise sector, aerospace and defense. And today we are at the concluding session. So the topic for the today is Atmanirbhar Bharat, and and we will cover the topic opportunities in aerospace and defense sector under Atmanirbhar Bharat. Just to set the ball rolling, if we see the type of platforms of type of products that our Indian defense was using, it was mostly, I think, 20 years back, obsolete equipments, and very few part of it was the state of the art. The aim of the government was to change it just opposite. So 80% state of the art equipments and 20% contemporary ones. So this is what with which I think in early 2000 privatization in defense sector came into picture. We had the DPP and a lot of private companies, bigger private Indian corporates, they entered into this field. And today we have a ecosystem well built, but at the same time there are opportunities to grow, opportunities to build capabilities. Still today, if we see specifically in aerospace sector, not to talk about land and naval systems where we have reached to a certain height, we are very good in maintenance, repair and overhaul. We have done good in manufacturing and final assembly, but what we need to work on is research and development of core products, and that's where this topic came into picture. So let me start with an entrepreneur from Bangalore, Mr. Dr. Jacob Cresta. I'll just read out his profile. So Dr. Jacob Cresta, the founder and chairman of CM Enviro Systems Private Limited and chairman of L Square Eco Products Private Limited, is a visionary who started his career in marketing of scientific equipments in the laboratory market of India. Today, the CME Group is a multi-location and multifaceted company with its presence all over the world. Dr. Cresta is a postgraduate from the University of Mysore in organic chemistry and started his career as a lecturer. He is the recipient of several awards from CIT, CCI, Mumbai, Vijayanagar Sri Krishna Dev Arya University, Bellary, FKCA, Kannada, Karavali, Vedika, etc. Dr. Cresta, apart from being a distinguished industrialist, holds several notable positions in various prestigious organizations and trade bodies of India, such as Federation of Karnataka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, AIM, SHOM, FICCI, ICC India, Rotary Platinum City, Bangalore, etc. He is also a member of Council of Micro, Small and Medium Scale Enterprise, chaired by the Prime Minister to lay down broad policy guidelines and review the development of the MSME sector in India. So welcome, sir. A very impressive profile. And I'm sure with your experience and your, entrepreneurial journey, we will gain a lot, and also the audience will gain a lot from this discussion. So my question to you is, of course, the first point that we are talking about what do you think are the opportunities in aerospace and defense sector under Atmanirbhar Bharat? You can cover Atmanirbhar Bharat, which has been more commonly used at this point of time, last 1 or 2 years, but we can also cover Make in India, which was earlier coming into picture. So what is it? Where is it? Is it still in air, or are companies there which have developed capabilities, developed technologies, and India is going towards self-realization, self-reliance in defense? Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Vikas, for very lucid explanation and my profile giving out to our audience. Well, this Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is called self-reliant, announced by our Honorable Prime Minister on the month of May 13, 2020, and giving us that 20 lakh crores. There is a funding available for this Atmanirbhar Bharat. Out of that 20 lakhs crores, 3 lakhs crores specifically meant for MSME. MSME, those who were tickled down because of the pandemic, so they got the benefit out of this 3 lakhs crores. Whatever was outstanding on 29th of December 2020, that 20% of the outstanding bankers have disbursed that amount. So that disbursal is almost now about 1.8 lakhs crores. Still there is money available. So those who have not got the benefit out of this Atmanirbhar Bharat under this COVID loan, that's for GEC loan, they can still apply and get this from their own respective bankers. Well, now the question arises, is Atmanirbhar Bharat is good for MSME or not? Very much it is very essential and very appropriately done. Why? Because especially after that Galwan Valley, where China killed say 60 soldiers from outside, which never happened after the China war from 1962. So 60 soldiers they killed without a single bullet. They killed with the fencing wire. So that has created a worldwide havoc, the relationship between India and China. So that has given us a chance for us, to those who are importing from China, to stop it. There was about say $56 billion in the import from China, from India, and India's export is only $14 billion. So there was a lot of financial gap between India and China. So this was the reason for India to ban all the imports from China. There's so many of China software, so many products. Even our trade association also has banned about almost 192 products from China. And you all know that even our Indian gods like Lakshmi, Ganesha, Saraswati, all these gods are made in China, including our women, Kumkum or Rakhi, everything, or even the dazzling lights, they're all done in China. So
Dr. Presta, I have one point. Actually, there the voice, your voice is not very loud, and that is what feedback I'm getting. So might be you can go closer to the mic and speak a bit louder.
Now
it's better, sir. So yes.
I should have increased the settings.
Might be the mic closer to your mouth, because the voice is also very feeble.
Really?
Yes.
Or maybe the settings. Can you give me 2 minutes? I'll just check.
Yes, sir. Sure, sure. So in the
Yeah,
meantime, yeah, is it
yeah.
okay, sir? No?
It is. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
better, I would say.
okay. Better or it is good?
Now good.
Okay, okay, okay. Right. So what I'm trying to say is Atmanirbhar Bharat has really worked for MSME, and especially from China, which the import is to take place, and a lot of electrical and electronic parts also the traders have stopped buying from China. So that has given a chance for India to get into MSME. Go back to the history, especially the changes, what has happened, starting from say Y2K, how the dot-com companies are closed and ITS is developed. Then there was a recession in 2007 and 2008, and all automobile companies are completely slowed down. And with that, MSMEs are affected. Then happened the demonetization. Then happened the GST. Then happened the pandemic. All these, debacles have taken place on MSME, and as per the recent IMO studies, about 35 to say 45% of our MSMEs are closed down because of all these kind of series of happening. With that, now what has happened? MSMEs, those who have survived the last debacle of pandemic, they are doing extremely good. Their orders level, their financial situation is extremely good. Although we have say 6.5 crores of MSME which are registered and unregistered, and not in the picture are about another 11 crores of MSME. Out of that, at least 20 to say 40% of our MSMEs really got the benefit. Now, after the about 101 product of defense services, they have stopped import from Israel or from, from France or from Japan. So they have stopped importing about 101, and their facility has been provided for MSMEs to get into it. And the large manufacturers also, a lot of private industries have come in aerospace as well as in defense as a substitute, and especially the ordnance product and defense testing. So all these kind of things have come up, and a lot of facility has been made for Indian companies to get into. It is only the Indian companies has to get into and search out which products are capable of doing it. If you see that the auto sector has really slowed down. Now the slowdown this industry, those who earn 3 shifts per day, have come down to say even 30% of production. But now they are slowly increasing. Because now the auto sector is already now increasing by say 14%. So with that, if the auto sector, those who are doing it, if they get into defense and aerospace sector, which is really tough. To get into aerospace sector, you have to have that aerospace standard. So aerospace standard, you have to have the titanium, machine. So that for that you have to import that machine. For import also, the government, especially as well as the government as well as bankers are really giving funding. But unfortunately, what happened is public sector banks, they have become a lethargy. So especially after the uh, conglomeration of this bank, all State Bank of Group I joined with the SBI, Vijaya Bank and Canara Bank as Syndicate Bank I joined with the Canara Bank. So like that, these by the mergers bankers, they have become lethargic. Because why they are lethargic? Because they have their own internal problem. With it, people or our entrepreneurs, those who are banking in public sector bank, they have really suffering now. Whereas private banks, say take it for Axis Bank or even Kotak Mahindra Bank or even HDFC or even ICICI. So these banks are come out like anything. Let's say there's a headed by MSME sector is headed by a vice president. So this kind of private banks are outright and center funding. So I think I request all the entrepreneurs, those who are listening to me, change from public sector banks to these private banks. So these private banks will help you out throughout, and they will handhold you and take you to the be it export, be it defense, be it aerospace. Even if your current ratio is not good, they come for on funding. It is not that earlier all these public sector banks in the air conditioned room, they used to listen to you. Now private banks, their vice president or you and general manager is coming out and come to you, and even paper is signed on in your office. So these are the facilities that are provided by private banks. So my suggestion to the listener is get out of this public sector bank and start banking in private bank. So that will benefit you in your better revenue generation. So then another chance for is aerospace and defense. So technical know-how. How you get the technical know? So even the defense, they are all out to give out their technical know-how. There is a separate technical cell in the military department. Contact them and see what is the product and what product you are passionate to manufacture and do. So these are the things available in Atmanirbhar Bharat. Specifically, government is not allowing the import. Any import comes, there are restrictions laid down. Officially, although it is not stated, but on the paper, because officially, because of WHO norm, they can't give it to import stop. But government is aware that these are the products an MSME or our Indian company can manufacture. So these are the facilities and the scope. So last year budget for defense is almost 3,75,000 crores. So if this kind of budget is available for defense and this kind of from this kind of budget, and if at all you are technically qualified and if you can manufacture and supply to defense, it's a huge potential. But quality and delivery is a must. So the delivery period and the quality, if it are certified, there is absolutely no dirt for any kind of things. So these are my suggestions to our entrepreneurs, those who are listening to him. Get out of your slumber, get going. Aerospace and defense is a product where now presently available for you in the 21st century, and get going, and that's the way the future is going to be under Atmanirbhar. Thank you, Vikas, for sharing with me.
Thank you, sir. You almost covered all the aspects. You spoke about funding, you spoke about technical know-how, you spoke about quality and delivery, and the merits and demerits of entering into aerospace and defense as compared to other sectors. So thanks for covering that. Might be also you gave some good insights, good practical examples of what MSMEs should do to avoid day-to-day issues related to funding. So again, my question comes here, and then because we are from a platform and we get a lot of inquiries, especially from entrepreneurs who are not from aerospace or defense or even manufacturing sector, but they want to enter into aerospace and defense sector. Just to give you an example, few years back, not few months back, some organizations who were in infrastructure, in hospitality, in transport, big organizations, they wanted to enter into defense manufacturing, but then it's a black box for them. So how these companies you think could be able to create a difference with no experience in this sector, but still wanting to enter in this sector and create a difference? What in your opinion can be done, or what strategy they can adopt to enter in this sector?
Because it's a very good question. See, once you get into a defense sector, then it is no stopping. But question is how to get into the defense sector. That is the most appropriate, because somewhere somebody who is the board of directors within yourself should be passionate on this product. Just because you are in a hospitality and transport sector, you are now no orders because after the pandemic, it may take another 2 years to pick up this kind of line. You want to get into defense sector, that may not be possible, because unless and until a particular person, I think the Commodore Bhargav may agree with me because he is from the defense sector. Unless and until you are passionate about the product, take for example startups. We have a highest startups in Bangalore. So how these startups come? Because there's an idea. He is passionate about the product. In fact, one of the funding agency was explaining because how they fund the startup, because startup is a new idea. How they fund it? That is what he was explaining is they take up that person to a cafe coffee day and make them to sit and listen to him. So the funding agency person is to say what kind of fire he has got inside the belly. We see that fire inside the belly. So depending on that and depending on his explanation and how passionate about the idea what he is, based on that we fund. So this is a typical example. If a person is in under hospitality or a transport, gets into a defense manufacturing, probably it may not survive. Or even defense people, why do they accept? If at all a qualified person who is passionate about, like if somebody, a startup person who has come forward with a lot of projects and innovation ideas, defense person will give that kind of product to such person rather than a person who is in the hospitality or a logistics sector. So I don't think that may be materialized. Well, I think Bhargav is the best person because he's already already been in the military side. Because other side, we being manufacturer side, this is the idea I give. Back to
Okay, so I'll give my perspective about it. So the company who wanted to enter, few of the companies are interested in merger and acquisition. So one of the companies, they took a majority share in one of the small and medium scale enterprise. I would say it was a startup, and then they let the young entrepreneur run that company. But then that's how they started learning. So
that
that's
is
how it is
possible.
going on.
That is
That's how it
possible.
is going on.
Yeah, that's why somebody should be passionate about the product.
But most of the time what I see is people who are passionate are already doing some manufacturing, might be not related to aerospace. So we I think in 2018 we took up a project, Solution Buggy took up a project related to sheet metal, precision sheet metal. So the person was in B2C sector, but he had very good experience in that B2C sector. So that is why he took up a challenge of doing something which was not happened in India so far. So it was super alloy sheet metal kind of work that he was ready to do. So quite successful, I would say, in terms of what he tried and what he tried to do. Still, it's going on because the prototypes have been delivered. But then he did a good job. So I totally agree with you that some passion, some core competence should happen, and then that core competence can be broadened, and people can then work on it and try to develop that capability in aerospace and defense specifically.
I have a suggestion for Solution Buggy, Vikas.
Sir.
Because since you are in this kind of line, and we have the highest startups in Bangalore. Now the sustainability of this kind of startup is just 10 to 15%. That means 75 to 85% startups close down. If Solution Buggy can take up such kind of startups who have an idea and guide them with all your mentors, what you have, guide them such kind of startup to sustain and go forward, because they are facing either in taxation problem or in statutory compliance. Funding of course takes place, but as and when funding, extra funding doesn't come, because and the even especially marketing. So they fail in that marketing, funding, and sustainability in statutory compliance. So that's why they close down and go. So instead of they not instead of, sorry. If the startups are given a mentor kind of facility by Solution Buggy, I think that closing down of 75 to 80% can be resolved.
Okay. So there are questions popping up. So might be we can take it later on when all the speakers are finished with their presentations or speaking. So with this, we will move to our next speaker, Mr. Pankaj. So he's General Manager, Engineering and Programs at Rangasons. So Pankaj comes with 21 years of experience in manufacturing, out of which 18 years is in aerospace and defense. Core competencies are new product development, aerospace and defense manufacturing engineering, lean, brilliant factory, additive manufacturing. So he's presently he is leading the engineering and program functions for Rangasons Mysuru, an aviation tube and duct manufacturing business of Rangasons LLP, NR Group company. I'll just go to almost the end, because then I would like you to speak more. So he has worked for GE Aviation and also Godrej Aerospace, and he was involved in BrahMos airframe program through Godrej. So he holds a BE Mechanical degree from Mumbai University and certification in Engineering Business Management from University of Warwick, UK. So welcome, Pankaj. So I would like to know from you, first of all, what your company does and how they have benefited under Atmanirbhar Bharat. Which initiatives have you taken in particular? Because I understand that ducts and many a times, the attachments also, I see a lot of hydraulic attachments and hydraulic tubes. They were not manufactured in India, and only few companies in India have developed that competence to do that. What was the way you were able to do that? What was it through technical collaboration or transfer of technology, or you yourself developed it, or was it DRDO? So want to know more about this experience. Over to you.
Yeah, so good morning all. Thanks, Vikas, for this introduction. Yeah, so what I will do is just to answer all this question. I have a small presentation together, which helps me to explain what I want to express. So we will do that, and with this, after that, we can have the questions on that. Because can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So good morning all audience. I'm from Rangasons Aerospace, and here I will be talking about aerospace and defense opportunities, and also sharing our experiences here doing that. Just a brief about our company. So we are Rangasons Aerospace, part of NR Group, which is more famous for cycle band agarbattis and the fragrance business. That's our core. But at the other side, we have Rangasons Aerospace, which we have two streams. So we are also, this group is 220 million, and then we almost have 2,500 employees across the group. And we are diversified from FMCG to the education technology to healthcare till the aerospace and defense products. And our Rangasons Aerospace, we are based in Bangalore as well as Mysuru. Mysuru is our HQ. Here we have a 5-acre campus with 55,000 square feet for all this aerospace manufacturing facility. It is primarily built to spec. We do have R&D center, product development center in Bangalore, and also a product integration center in Bomsundra industrial area. Briefly, we deliver from Philippines till US. Across the world, we deliver the products. Right now, primarily for exports, we are having tubes and ducts as a product business. And for Indian government, HAL and MOD, we do deliver environmental control system products like heat exchangers, which is like completely indigenously developed products for MOD. So we have both two streams we have. It's like a build to print, which we serve the international customers, and build to specs for all these domestics as well as international specs. So in build to print, it comes from the customer. So primarily the fluid distribution system components we do. But mainly our main focus is also on build to spec, which is we design the product and deliver to our Indian governments. So as of today, our heat exchangers are flying on the Indian Navy helicopters, which was a solution provided by our team, designed, developed, tested, and then provided to Indian Navy through MOD. And right now also we have programs going on for ISRO, which is again a build to specs, means concept has been given and we are doing the design development and manufacturing, and it will be supplied. We do also have some high-end technical products like satellite communication devices and data links. Those are also for the Indian MOD and other applications usage. So this is the two areas that we have and we work with it. Just to share how we look at it and how we come through here. I just wanted to go take everybody through the global. So here I'm not only talking about Indian market, but just take a look at overall aviation aerospace industry. So primarily commercial and defense and space, if you look at two verticals. So the future is very bright. This industry is going to be 3.37 billion by 2030, and then another 9.5 by 2040. So there is a huge order books are there. This 2 years, because of COVID pandemic, there is a drop in the growth, but industry is recovering. It is expected by 2023 and 24, the regional jets, the mid-range aircrafts, that travel will come up, and by 24, everything will be back on track to the normal pre-pandemic level 19, and after that it will continue. So in commercial aviation, there are two aspects of it. One is the passenger travels, and the second one is the cargo. So cargo has already been crossed the 19 levels, and it is doing more than what it is to do in 19. So there is a tremendous increase in the air cargo movements. So what does it mean also? What is the forecast? So Boeing is actually the major across the world who does the analysis and who also shares the forecast based on the customer order books and their analysis. So in next 20 years, from 21 to 2040, the forecast is still same as what was previous, except the 2 years gap. And we can see almost 42,000 passenger aircrafts will be inducted in next 20 years. So that much demand will be there. It is like a new addition as well as a replacement to some retiring aircrafts, as well as almost 900 freight cargo aircrafts will be inducted. So that is also increasing the freight capabilities. So these two drives the whole aerospace and defense supply chains across the world. If there is a demand, then everything will be pulled. And then there is a demand for either you do the build to print or you do build to spec also. And out of this, almost 9,000 aircrafts are going to be delivered to the Asia, primarily to India and the neighboring countries. Almost similar one will going to the China. But if you take out China also, so there is a lot of work. The deliveries are going to come over India. So the government policies with the offset or the obligation to do it local is going to drive a lot of demand in India also to be part of these programs. So it can be, you can choose any of, we will see this, what are the options we can go through, and then you can choose if you can manufacture and give it, or the second side of is all this, you develop the parts and it goes through qualification to it. So what we see build to print is first something which can start with, and then build to spec because it requires a lot of international qualifications, approval, FAA or EASA. So that is it is like a long-term program, but that should be there as a must to have, so that we get into the build to spec and we own some of the products. That helps. Defense sector actually during this pandemic also it is almost stable. It's very marginal decrease in the spend, but still is there. And now rather there is an increase in all governments are pushing the defense spend. So across the globe, even Indian MOD has budget for 2020 as 4.78 lakhs currently, so which is quite a big budget to spend on the defense activities. And even if you look at the international market, this across the world, these fighters and defense purchases up. It is expected to cross 2 trillion now. And in terms of space also, the private players could be playing a big role in space travel. So space opportunities being increased. The launch of the satellites is going up. SpaceX itself is planning to have 4,400 plus satellites by 2024. And also the military capability in the space, that's also been getting explored. So there is a tremendous new areas getting explored where all of these products applications can be used. So ultimately that drives the growth or the demand, and then demand drives the supply chain growth, and then it's all need for supplying either demand, being part of the supply chain. That we can see there is a two of the jet engines, fuel propulsions, but the future is also coming up with the development of drone applications area. That's for material deliveries. A lot of other applications are being explored. So drones and then UAVs are another area where there is a lot of opportunity to go indigenously and make a product that you can use definitely in India, but as well as you should be able to export it to other countries as well. Hypersonics technologies are getting evolved, electric propulsion and hydrogen power aircrafts. So with this technological changes also, there are a lot of opportunities to develop the technologies or the products which can goes into the future products coming up. So people who wants to come up in this area, startups or the people who want to get into aerospace and defense manufacturing, we need to take a look at both what is today's demand as well as what is going to the future. So that way you can choose the right entry or right area where you want to work, because there's in the whole supply chain there are tremendous areas to work upon. So even I was just mentioning, because we are into this specialty, fluid conveyance systems for the aerospace and defense. So as a Rankson Aerospace, we said we will be focused on this particular value stream in the aerospace and defense, whether it's the civil aviation or the fighter jets or the engines programs. So like fluid conveyance, what does it mean? Is like, for us in humans we have arteries, but aircrafts have the tubes, ducts, and hoses. So we make the arteries for the aircraft. So we are into the business of making tubes, ducts, and then hoses for aircraft. And where does it go? So in whole of this system, there are a lot of other complete systems are there. We are not talking about individual parts, but if you take a look at it, there are different systems like environmental control systems, water and drain systems, fuel supplies, fuel storage, engine air systems, and thermal anti-icing systems, or APUs, is auxiliary power unit systems. So all of these different systems which are primarily driving the fluid conveyance. It can be fuel, air, water, oxygen, or oils, or drainage. So if you take a look at a whole of this value stream, there are so many applications and so many different technologies that it requires. So coming back to here, so what does it? So this is what the market. These are the opportunities. Even if I take a look at it, one particular thing. Now let's look at what can be done here. So as of today in aerospace and defense, see, Indian defense. I'm not talking much, but it's more about the overall global aerospace and defense industry. If you take a look at it, which is the main market. So for us also, India, everything is like raw materials. Everything has to be imported. You have to buy from the approved sources, which are either Europe or US. So whatever you take, it has to be imported. They have the source controls. They have the specifications. Even the process consumables, you have to buy from them. Whether it's a paint, primer, or any cleaning solution also comes from an approved source. All simple nuts, bolts also has to come from the approved sources. Standard fittings, like some of the very special products. This is the area also where our MSMEs or the companies who wants to build some technology product, they have the opportunity, like the joints, flexible joints, like the flexible hoses, some of the fittings, casting, forging, those things are there, which can be done immediately here, and then you can get it qualified, you can supply it. And also standards and specifications, certification, everything comes from outside. So in actually aerospace and defense market, including specification, AS910, whether it is NADCAP or whether it's your specification, everything comes from the world. So for us to be India, what happens actually, we buy everything, we just add label to it, and then we export back or we deliver it. So we still become only a conversion suppliers. But we have tremendous opportunity to take up areas, any of these, what we are importing, and try to develop the substitution for it. But if you want to play in a global market, you cannot just be a local supplier here and work for India. You need to be able to deliver to the world. So for that, you have to have a global certification. So definitely if you go with that, you get your product certified and you start delivering. It has both means. You get large volumes of the business, and that helps you to sustain. Otherwise, the consumptions, what is going to happen locally or in India, will not justify your investment, because aviation is a long haul program. It is not the small time. So you need to have a lot of patience. You need to have a lot of capacity to adjust to the times, and then spends, finally it comes to the cash. So yeah, it takes time to get your returns back. But if you are having patience, if you invest correctly and the right things, it has definitely bright opportunities are there and volumes are there. But going global is also equally important. So make for India as well as make for world. That is something you have to think, because if you develop a technology, if you develop one product, you will get returns only when you have the volumes for it. You sell it for a large volume, so you can become a cost productive. Your cost can be down, and you can also get good returns on it. So today we are delivering a lot of the systems, like majorly in India as of today, the major exports happens through either Tata or Mahindra for outside world, like wings, fuselage, empennage, then the other systems, machine components. Majority of the players are almost, I think 500 plus suppliers are there in machining category in India. but very few people like commodities like ECS systems, environmental control systems, tube ducts and manifolds. Very few people are there. So we have still a lot of opportunities are there where we can, whatever technology you develop here, maybe it's a forging technology, or maybe it's a casting, or maybe it's machining. I still say it's a lot of commodities become more commodity. But we have a lot of other processes which are very few in the world, like joining, weldings. All these processes are where not much players are there. So if you look at the strategy, like whether you want to fight in a blue ocean, you want to find a blue ocean, or you want to fight in a red ocean where already there are so many competitions. It's also a decision. If you make it correctly, if you choose where you want to play and find an area where you have new opportunities, there is not much of the competition, that also gives a lot of advantage for you to be successful. So many things are there where it can be entered. So increasing portfolio in terms of supply chain, so many opportunities are there. When the components are coming up, additive manufacturing coming up, so those things can be chosen. So for manufacturing in India, we have two major things. Like first thing is how much we can find alternatives in India. So even our Indian specifications, why can't our IS certified or ISI certified product can be as equal to the AS certified product, and the work happens. So definitely here, the BIS or the regulatory authorities also has to coordinate well and create equivalent of it, because globally even we can find out the alternatives available. So we can buy a Japanese standard or a DIN standard or the EN standard equivalent to the AS, and those can be used. But nowhere we see our standards are being specified as equivalent or you can use this. So this is also an opportunity wherein, but definitely individual players have much less say here, but the authorities or the BIS, if they can pull up and then we improve our standards and get it equivalent to the international level, it helps a lot way to get the products done here, and then you can send it to outside world as well.
So thank you, Mr. Pankaj. So is your presentation?
Yeah, so I think there was something I wanted to just.
If you can squeeze it in next 3 minutes, it would be great, because 11:45 then we'll have to discuss with Commodore Bhargava.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Okay. So just I will finish so how we do it and what can be done actually. See, so usually in aerospace and defense sector, there's just, though while opportunities are there, today we are running short of skills. We have people, but we don't get the skills. So skills, aerospace and defense manufacturing skills or engineering skills is the biggest shortage. In the manufacturing side today, the world, even globally, there's a welding skill shortages. So these are the areas where when there is a shortage, there is opportunity. Every problem is an opportunity. So if people want to enter into it, they can choose also what can be where they want to work. So there are a lot of opportunity in terms of people and then skills to be enhanced. And then if you have the skills, definitely you can develop this advanced parts and supply it. So people is the base for us. Also, like different areas to work for. So primarily, if I see the global aviation market, your metal forming is majorly, so all your body parts, they come from metal forming as a process. Maybe it's a tube or sheets raw material. So you want to choose in which domain you want to play. Joining, very important area. So TIG welding or brazing, all these processes are there to choose from. And then you can definitely go with the different inspection and testing methods, which is more of a standard. But also a lot of opportunities are there where in terms of coating, performance coatings, those things can be developed in India for that, even for the defense applications as well. So these are the areas which we see in the manufacturing. Once you have those technologies, like today also simplest one, I can share an example. We have one like 1-inch fitting. It has a 10 microns coating, but the only supplier is in the whole world is in the UK. So this $10 part has to travel across these oceans, go there and come back. There is no one is qualified in India. So like this, there are so many high-end application technologies are there, which has an opportunity to be developed in India. And a lot of other new things are coming up. So to embrace or to be competitive or to be at par with the global competitions, it is imperative that you use instead of reinventing the wheel, we also have to think about strategies, how we can use the available new technologies in terms of manufacturing or the material laser, like for example, the additive manufacturing, as well as the forming or 3D laser technology. Just an example, but in every particular value stream, there are different advanced technology. So it helps you to be competitive or be at par with the delivery, because here, everything is you can do. Quality is given, means you have to have a quality, because one mistake in quality, it is a destruction for that business as well. And then obviously the new technologies coming up, you can take help of that, and then make use of those technologies to do your business faster. Yeah, thanks. This is what I wanted to cover here. Hopefully it answers.
So thank you, Mr. Pankaj. So I have one question for you. How much time does it take to develop such a product? Just to give you, just to take an example of your product, say flexible hoses or say manifolds for fuel. How much time did it take to start to come to a production level? To start right from the scratch and to reach to that high production level of say even 25 helicopters or 25 aircraft or 50 aircraft per year.
So as I said, so if you are like manifolds, which is more of a build to print, you usually take let's say 12 months to 18 months for that. You can take up. For flexible hoses, which is very complex, which is the composites. So yeah, it takes 4 or 5 years, depend on you are able to perform the test. Usually for flexible, it will take 4 to 5 years to get the product out.
Okay. So what you are saying, even at a component level, even at subsystem level, it might take 5 to 6 years, or might be minimum 1 year to qualify your product for production.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. So you can choose between at what phase you are. So we always see if you are built to spec, start from zero. It's a long run program, but there's always way out. You start with the phase wise. So you may start learning the skills. You may start just doing some part of the products, just maybe do welding only, and then get components, and then slowly transition. So those type of overlapped phase wise planning also helps to reduce your lead time, as well as you can also do learn a lot, because learning curves are there, and start also parallelly grow.
And how did you bridge the knowledge gap? So might be, was there a product that you were already manufacturing similar to that, or did you take some technologies from outside? Might be some consultants, individuals, experts, or was it an organization which gave you this kind of technology?
It's based on case to case. It's everything is being used. There's no one fix for all.
Okay.
But it's like mostly developing in-house competencies helps. And also the people, we use the pivot concept. So you get one expert, you hire one expert, maybe in that we say it's like a process expert or SME. And along that SME, you pivot the new batch of the people. Either it will be through GET programs, you hire the freshers, or through the freshers batch of diploma, and you run a program to train them. So usually for engineering stuff here, we are running the graduate engineering training programs. So we hire people, we test them, we get them, and then we run them through for 2 years. We train them. We move them to different functions, and then also try to get them hands-on experience with the whatever the process are there. We expect them to run it, do the part, so that you feel it, get it. And then end of this 2 years, you should be able to at least identify one domain area where you can perform better. And then accordingly, you align them into the next role. The same thing with the shop floor people as well, like a welding school, welders shortage. So we have the special concept for it. So you specially can train them on, focus on your applications. You cannot make them master for all. But at least if I know I am doing TIG welding, stainless, or let's say aluminum welding, we give them the focused training that helps them to come up to that level.
Fine. So thanks for it. There are questions popping up again, but then we'll come back to you once we go to the next speaker. So with this, we move to our next speaker, Commodore Mukesh Bhargava, and we all know about his stellar profile and his presence. He's a veteran from the industry, so he has served right from naval services. Then he has played an active role in L&T, in international business, in naval systems, and then he was in board of many joint ventures of L&T. So he's a renowned personality, and I think it would be better to hear from him rather than talk about him. So welcome, sir, and it's a privilege to have you in this panel. So I would like to know from you, both from a policies perspective, how it is helping organizations as big as L&T, or even a smaller organization who would be subcontractors, small subcontractors, MSMEs of L&T, or other organizations also, how this initiative is helping the industry to grow and to develop capabilities.
Thank you, Vikas. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Vikas, and thanks, Solution Buggy, for taking this initiative uh, almost for a whole month, 5 weeks, to bring this Aero Defense 2021 to the industry. Compliments for this. Uh, as you have rightly said, I would like to cover, coming right from the 40,000 feet and then come to the ground level terra firma, and talk about what are the capabilities and what are the opportunities for MSMEs as well. Well, this webinar, or the series of webinar which Solution Buggy has taken up, could not have come at a better time than what we have presently been going through, or almost towards the fag end of what is called a black swan event, once in a century, wipes off trillions of dollars of the economy of the world and creates challenges which are daunting for all of us, but most severely affected are definitely the MSMEs. India has handled it very well, but it has led to a number of issues with regard to the increase in the raw material, the steel, and even the chips, which has impacted the auto industry. But every dark cloud has a silver lining, and the silver lining in this is the new normal that it has brought out. And today, like, we are meeting on a web platform, which has now become the order of the day. I've been having meetings with the MOD. In fact, we have interacted more with MOD during pandemic than we could ever before the lockdown took place, because all the ministers and the secretaries are available for a webinar on a very, very short notice. This new normal has also brought to the fore what we always knew, but it has fast paced or fast forwarded the introduction of digitalization into manufacturing. And this is something which is going to be the key and would be driving the future businesses. So all my friends from the industry, and mainly the MSMEs who are over here, they must take note of this, because it is no longer a choice for going into industry 4.0. It's a question of either you change or you perish. And that is what is brought down by this pandemic, and the significance cannot be lost on even the big players like L&T, but definitely it is the key for the survival for the smaller industries. Number of businesses are closing down, as what Dr. Castro also mentioned, but it is also creating opportunities for new businesses to emerge. And with this new technologies, they can really take this forward for going even for the next level. Another issue which is also, glaring us, and we're talking about the aerospace and defense, is what has happened in the last couple of years, and I would say in the last couple of months. When I did staff college in 1989, we did one scenario building of a two front war, which we always thought is a theory. I'm talking about 1989. 30 years down the line, it has become a reality. We now actually are facing, and what Castro also mentioned, we actually had the Galvan crisis, and we're facing what is happening on our northern, on a western front, which has got further aggravated with what has happened in our further western neighbor at Afghanistan, and with trillions of dollars of advanced weaponry falling in the hands of Taliban. It's creating new challenges. And in the last interaction, just a couple of weeks back, we had with the Raksha Mantri, he alluded to this fact that the industry should gear up to face this asymmetric war that would be on our doorsteps anytime, this time with American weapons. For the knowledge of the people, Black Hawk, which is one of the most feared armored helicopter, the biggest number today in the world are belonging to the Talibans. The largest fleet of Black Hawks are owned by Taliban. And this creates an absolutely new paradigm change in the warfare that India is going to be facing. And the minister has asked the industry to gear up, not only for bringing the next gen technologies, but also bringing to the fore the topic of today, Atmanirbharta. In September 2014, I was in Vigyan Bhavan attending the launch of Make in India, where the Prime Minister, along with the 26 Minister and Minister of States, were on the dais when 26 sectors Make in India was launched. The present Finance Minister was Minister of State for Commerce, and she was leading this initiative. And she came to our defense seminar defense launch of the Make in India, and she said that this is going to be the most important driver of Make in India. Why defense is most important in Make in India out of the 26 sectors? Because this is the only sector that gives a multiplier of 7, the highest than any other industry. And that is something that we need to be cognizant of, that every rupee that you spend in defense creates an economic value add of 7 rupees. And that is why this focus, and everybody, the previous speakers have been talking about that, why defense and aerospace, all state and all the national leadership is talking about, not because of what is happening in geopolitical, but also how important it is for the growth of the economy. And if we have to reach the 5 trillion economy, today, the manufacturing sector, which Vikas very rightly mentioned, is the focus of this series of webinars. Manufacturing today, we are only 17% of the GDP. And if we have to compare with 30, 32 or 34% of China, and we say we have to beat China, then at least by 2025, there is a directive from the Prime Minister that the manufacturing should increase from 17% to 25% of the GDP, which would mean a CAGR, a compound annual growth rate in the defense sector of 14%. And that can happen really, because this is a question which a lot of people have been asking, can we really achieve that? It is very much possible, because today defense industry has come of age. The hiatus of the last 2 decades of the previous government rule, which made what Vikas very rightly mentioned, the entire defense machinery obsolete today. I can tell you, we just delivered in February of this year, and the army chief was there to receive the 100th gun of K9 Vajra that L&T delivered from our Hazira facility. This gun has been bought by the Indian MOD after 89, when Bofors gun was the last gun bought. 89 to 2021. We're talking about 32 years. What is the life of a gun? 25 years, 20 years. After 32 years, you bought the next gun. What does it mean? The entire armory today is obsolete, and there is a need to upgrade that. And that is what brought to the fore the Make in India in September 14. And last year, it was made as Atmanirbharta. Why Atmanirbharta? Why is the Prime Minister talking about Atmanirbharta? Because in a war, there are no runners-up. You have to get the best. And how can you get the best? Do you expect the US and the Israel and the France to give their best equipment to you? Never. Because if you have to be self-sustained, then only you can develop equipment that are going to make you win a war. Because if you are runners-up, you might as well don't fight the war. To get Atmanirbharta is very important, because sovereignty of a nation cannot be allowed to be hostage to foreign OEMs. I've been in this sector 31 years in uniform, and this is my 16th year in the corporate. And I can tell you that technology, the source code, and the IPs never ever get transferred to us. So when we buy 70% of our defense equipment from outside, we are actually doing what other speakers have also spoken about, just the labor value add. And at the time of the need, these softwares and these source code could be denied, and you can never make the Make 2 or the next gen product on your own. And that is why the importance of Atmanirbharta. And government has taken lots of initiative, and I'll quickly cover what are the initiatives that the government has taken with regard to Atmanirbharta. The DAP 2020, the name itself, DA, A is acquisition, defense acquisition policy. What was it called earlier? DPP, defense procurement policy. The procurement has become acquisition. What is the difference between procurement and acquisition? Procurement is you go and procure potatoes, you go and procure onions. It's a one-time buy. When you acquire the know-how of the IP, know-how of the manufacturing technology. And that is what allows you to make the next generation product yourself. And that is the key, and that is the thought behind Atmanirbharta. And why Atmanirbharta, not before? Because first, the Prime Minister spoke about Make in India. Start doing manufacturing here. Then Atmanirbharta. Start doing acquisition of that know-how and the processes. And that is what is going to take us to the next level, where we would be absolutely self-sustained in terms of defense equipment. There are a number of policy initiatives that have been taken. Major incentives have been given. This entire document of DAP 2020, I was a member of the drafting committee. 5 out of the 9 subcommittees, I was a member. And I can tell you the entire policy is focused on Atmanirbharta and the focus on promoting MSMEs in defense and aerospace. And you would see, as I speak about what are the initiatives that have been taken, each and every initiative is promoting the MSME sector. Total 7 categories. 6 out of the 7 categories are for Indian companies. 5 out of the 7 categories are reserved for Indian industry. That means foreign companies cannot participate. There was a 30% indigenous content which was demanded in most of the category. That has been increased to minimum 50%. There is an incentive that has been brought in. We used to talk about, Vikas would remember, we used to talk about L1T1 concept. We always have L1 concept. That means the cheapest will win the order. But what about the chap who is bringing a higher quality product than what you're asking? Are you giving him any preference? Or are you only taking the chap who is giving you the cheapest one and the worst quality product? So the T1 part has been brought in terms of giving the price preference and purchase preference for somebody who not only just meets what is given in the RFP, but goes beyond that. So there are minimum quality requirement and additional quality requirement, which gives you a benefit to move up the value chain. Who can move up the value chain? Would companies like L&T do that? No. Who are the creator of the IP and the niche technologies? MSME, my dear friends. And that is why this audience need to take that into cognizance and try to bring, and that is what the Prime Minister and the Raksha Mantri in all our interactions have been talking about. MSMEs need to take the bull by the horn, bring in those disruptive and next-gen technologies which do not exist with us today. And that cannot be done by the big players like L&T, Tata, Mahindra, because they don't have that nimbleness, that agility, that flat structure that only the MSMEs have. And these are the strengths of the MSMEs which need to get leveraged. There are AONs which are for less than 100 crores reserved for MSMEs. All procurement categories, which the make one category, if it is less than 100 crore, only MSME will participate. It will go to the big players like L&T if there is no MSME present. Make two categories, which are suo motu proposal. Friends on the audience, if you have a technology which you think would be of use to the industry, to the service headquarters, please bring that technology up. If it meets the requirement, you are assured of an order under the Make 2 category, which is suo motu. That means unsolicited, without RFP, you can get an order. Make 3, which is introduced for the first time in DAP 2020, talks about import substitution. That means, and as some of the previous speakers also spoke about that, Make 3, you can today form a joint venture. MSMEs can form a joint venture with a foreign OEM for manufacturing the spare parts and components and subsystems in India as an Indian supply chain for the foreign OEM, which also opens up the export opportunities going forward. And there is a huge focus on that. 35,000 crores by 2025, the government wants to move for the export category. What is the present export volume? It is just about 12 to 15,000 crore. So you need to multiply 2 times in the next 4 years for export. How will that happen? Of course, by bringing indigenous technology, by bringing indigenous know-how, by moving up the value chain, and government is giving all these initiatives, Make 1, Make 2, Make 3. Next, IDEX, Innovation for Defense Excellence, a program that is being launched by MOD only for MSMEs and startups. All the present audience for you. Special category has been announced. Last 2 weeks back, the Raksha Mantri in our interaction mentioned 1,000 crore in financial year 2021 is reserved for IDEX categories. 499 crores, almost 500 crores are for creating incubators who will bring up and generate these technologies and for funding these programs. Up to 1.5 crore for a new products in the IDEX is funded by the government. Next, the TDF, the Technology Development Fund, which is the DRDO initiative. It is not just the MOD, the DRDO themselves have come up and said that we are going to be giving 10 crores per project for developing technologies that DRDO is looking for. So these are some of the initiatives which I thought I would share it with you. Most importantly, initiative has been brought up and I am personally chairing it, creating a Center of Excellence for Defense and Aerospace at IIT Bombay. The minister and the prime minister is talking about how do we create the disruptive and next-gen technologies within the country. Of course, MSMEs would play a key role, but there would be gaps within the know-how and the capability of the MSMEs. How can that be built up? One is, of course, you form a joint venture with the foreign OEM, which some of the previous speakers have spoken. But second is tie up with the academic institution. And through the CII and the FICCI and SOCHM, where I am in the national executive, we are initiating this link between the academia and the industry through us creating centers of excellence. So this is another issue because the next gen technology that is being talked about are pertaining to AI, ML, AR, VR, MR, cyber security, and the cyber physical systems. That means creating factories which would be linked to the internet so that you have IIoT, industrial Internet of Things, coming to the fore. And this is only possible by collaborating with cutting edge technology being developed through the IITs. The three services, I'll come to the opportunities now. As far as the three services are concerned, each one of them have been individually tasked by the minister to create platforms where industries can come and give them solutions. The minister in his last address just 10 days back spoke about he wants the MSMEs to not just bring technologies, but also bring solutions to solve the problems of the service headquarters. And we are here on a solution buggy platform. So solutions is what the MOD is looking for coming from the industry. And that is, where are the questions? Where are the problems? So all the three services have been given a directive to make problem statement documents. The Army has made, through an Army Design Bureau, a fifth issue of their problem statement document, which gives out various problems that existing equipment is facing. And they're looking for industry to take up those problems, find a solution either on their own or in partnership with the foreign OEM or in partnership with the academia, and provide those solutions. The Army will take those solutions, put it on their platform, their tanks or their vehicles or their armory, and if it is found suitable, an order is assured. So these are the wide-ranging changes that has come up through these initiatives. Coming to the Air Force, which has been, I would say, slowest of the block. Navy, of course, has been, not because I am ex-Navy, Navy has always been a pioneer in promoting the industry collaboration, and I'll talk about the opportunities there. But Air Force, for the first time, I found, is taking major initiative. They have identified one platform, which I would like to share it with you, PC-7, which is a trainer aircraft. If you all know, this was being procured through one of the Swedish company. The procurement has happened, but there is no MRO signed with this OEM. And that is creating a huge problem for the Air Force. And they are looking for spares, subsystem, and infrastructure for MRO to be created by the industry, for which they are creating what is called NTC, Nodal Technology Centers. They'll be created at all the BRDs of Air Force, and they will take up for various platforms these NTCs. They are planning for the future Industry 4.0. Again, they are looking for smart manufacturing, so that you can bring that to the BRDs also. Higher use of automation. They are talking about distributed ledger using blockchain, which is yet another technology which is now entering the defense. And any of the audience who have those capability, please get in touch with the NTCs at the Air Force BRDs. They are looking for people to come and give them solutions in that. So IoT plus blockchain is going to provide the services for the Air Force BRDs. The SPT, special purpose tool, the ground support equipment, the batteries, the aircraft tires are some of the areas that they have identified for indigenization. HAL has been directed to fast track an indigenization process, and you will find that they have created on every Friday on the Air Force web portal, you will find a list of the products that they're looking for every Friday. So weekly, you will get an update of the new products that are required. They're promoting MOUs with the foreign OEMs so that the JVs can be formed, and the orders would be given on PAC basis, proprietary article basis, to companies who form the JVs with the foreign OEMs. And I would request Vikas to bring the partners up. I can support them to form the joint ventures with the foreign OEM for making part components and subsystems in India, and save the precious foreign currency which has been going out. The proof of concept is being started at Nagpur by the maintenance headquarters, and 1,000+ MSMEs have already registered on these portals. And the other members of the Solution Buggy team can join this bandwagon. They are going to handhold these MSMEs to move up the value chain through the NTCs. Coming to the Navy, Navy has got two major programs: the P75I, and of course the 4 LPDs. One is the $6 billion, another is almost about 16,000 crore order. They're looking for the next generation fighter, fast attack craft, the USVs, which is another very big opportunities, and of course the combat UAVs. There are 30 combat UAVs that are being procured, and there would be NUH and MRH, which would be the strategic program that would be coming. Navy today has just about 130 ships. They want to move up to 160 ships, and from 200 aircrafts to 400 aircrafts. So that creates a huge opportunity for new program that would be coming in through them. As far as the Army is concerned, the Future Infantry Combat Vehicle, nearly about 40,000 crore program, and the Future Ready Combat Vehicle, in addition to the AD guns and ammunition, are the new areas that would be coming. Through the CII, we forming manufacturing clusters in various states which can take up this, and all the MSMEs can join that. Lastly, I will come to somebody mentioned about the drones. The drones, a new policy has been announced, which is called the Drone Policy 2021. Government is finding this, is expecting this going to be, India will become a hub for drone manufacturing by 2030. A PLI, the productivity linked incentive of 20% has been announced for the drone industry. A market is expected to be of 15,000 crore by 2026. And the three parts which are there, the hardware, the software, and the services, all three would be qualified for the PLI. The total number of forms have been reduced from 25 to 5 for getting a certification. The total payment terms have been reduced from 72 types of fees have been reduced to 4. So a lot of ease of doing business has been done for drone just to promote that industry. Last but one, I will talk about the negative list. I think Dr. Jacob did speak about that. There are two lists of programs that have, of defense items that have been announced. First list had 101 items on 9th August 2020, and the second list was announced on 31st May 2021, 109 items, 108 items. So total 209 items have been banned for imports. So that means all these defense products would definitely have to be procured locally, and that would create a huge opportunity for the industry to go in. And they are not just talking about part components, they are talking about armored fighting, full platforms, armored fighting vehicles, corvettes, UAVs, complete missile and weapon systems, radars, communication. And the last list of the IDEX that was announced, which had 35 programs mentioned there, they are all based on AI, cybersecurity, and the next gen technology, which I spoke about. Lastly, I will touch upon what is the DRDO opportunity. I did spoke about the Technology Development Fund. The DRDO has announced of 1,340 technologies that they are willing to transfer to the industry. A list of 108 technologies was already announced, but they are saying they would give these technologies free of cost. That means you can get technologies from free from DRDO. Only thing you need to show your base level capability for absorbing that technology. Likewise, they are going to be the K9 Vajra, which is there. I mentioned L&T has got a supply chain of about 2,000 MSMEs in that. The ATAGS, which is the next generation gun, which Bharat Forge and Tatas have successfully developed along with the DRDO, have got 462 MSMEs chain. And the LSI concept, that is the lead system integrator concept, they are now announced that there would not be any change made from the lead system integrator. That means you are assured order from the DRDO, and this would facilitate for the MSMEs to move up the value chain. As far as the IT and ITS is concerned, India is the world leader, but we are only giving service provider role in that. Most of the IT industries, the IP does not reside with us. IP resides with the foreign OEMs. So the DRDO is saying that they would like this IP, what they share with the industry, would be free and owned by the industry. Only if you want to use the technology for any export do you have to pay any license fees to them. So even the patents which are there would be available to the industry, and of course online clearance is being given for this. These are some of the things that I thought I will share it. I can see the time is running out, and Vikas, I would like to take up any questions that you or the viewers have for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very inspiring, and it was a balanced show. So I would say very inspiring, high levels of energy, full of knowledge and experience, and you covered almost all the aspects. So I think the passion, of course, comes from the inner strength, but also it comes from, if some person has worked in defense or served defense services, then automatically it comes from there also. So
Thank you,
we are
Vikas.
very fortunate that we have you, such experienced person in this country. Thank you, sir, for addressing and speaking about the opportunities, the government policies, and of course how MSMEs can benefit. Some of the points that you highlighted, and I would like to repeat again, is about MSMEs and small companies and startups, which are much more faster. In fact, in the last few webinars, some of the startup founders, in fact, one of them was a lady who just had set up a manufacturing plant in Chennai in the aerospace zone, and she has put Industry 4.0 in her plant. So that is how it happens. So if it's a small company, it's much more easier to adopt. It is much more easier to take decisions, and that's why it is much more easier to create, research development, or create products, create technology, and also adopt technologies. So this is the point. There is one question from Mr. Anup, who says that, can offsets opportunities push Atmanirbhar Bharat? So what do you say about it?
Yeah, good question. Offsets, I would like to clarify that this has been there right from 2003 when the first DPP was made. But what we have been noticing is offset is the prerogative of the buyer to use the opportunity of purchase to get some benefit for the local industry. There are countries who have really moved up the value chain and become the leading exporters of defense equipment using the offset policy. I'll give you the example. Israel is one of them. The South Korea is the second. South Africa is third, and there are many more. We in India somehow have never been able to make use of offset to move up the value chain. The reason being that, and I'm talking about from first-hand experience because I was also chairing the offset committee on both FICCI and CII for many, many years. The foreign OEMs are wanting to, under the offset, only to do level 3, the tier 3 or tier 4 level works to India. That means you get under the offset those projects for which you already have the capability. So what is the value add that the offset is bringing for the local industry, other than, of course, the revenue? But the revenue, you can get it otherwise also. The countries like Israel and South Africa and South Korea, they moved up the value chain by ensuring that in the RFP, they mandate those technologies that are not available with them and make it mandated under the offset category. And that is how today Israel has reached a level that they are now exporting technologies to US from whom they actually gained in the initial phase of their learning curve. Now, whether the offset opportunities can make India Atmanirbhar, I don't think so if the policy is not tweaked on the issue that I mentioned. To become Atmanirbhar, you must get not what the foreign OEM wants you to give, but what you want or what you lack. And the foreign OEM under offset will never ever give those technologies which are required by you, because if you get that, then next time you will not go to him. So this can only be done by the government to ensure that it is put into as a mandated requirement under the RFP, which is done in the policy as part of the strategic partnership model. And the first program that has come out is a 75 India, in which the government is mandating these technologies should be given to us. What is the result of that? It has not yet happened, but what we are listening as part of the interaction is that most of the 5 foreign OEMs do not want to part with the technology that India is asking for. Because if we get that technology, we will never ever have a next submarine program being procured from outside. And that is precisely what we want. We want to become Atmanirbhar. And to become Atmanirbhar, you must get what you don't have. And that the foreign OEMs are refusing to give. And today, in fact, I'm in one of the panels which is deciding whether 75 India would actually happen or not. Because 3 of the OEMs have backed out and other 2 are on the verge of getting backed out, because they are saying it is onerous in the RFP, the mandated requirement of technology transfer. Second part, which is very important for the offset, is, as I mentioned, out of the 7 procurement categories, 6 are meant for Indian companies can participate, and 5 are exclusive for the Indian companies. So that leaves only 2 categories in which foreign OEMs can participate, and the offset comes only when the foreign companies are leader or are the prime in the procurement category. And these are category 6 and 7. And an RFP will go to category 6 and 7 only if the first 5 category cannot be made good. So if you look at theoretically, there would be lesser and lesser program that would be awarded under Buy Global or Buy and Make Global, which is the 6th and the 7th category in the defense procurement. And therefore, there would be lesser and lesser offset opportunities. But let me not paint a gloomy picture. The existing opportunities itself, there are 9,000 crores worth of offset. 9 billion, sorry, not 9,000 crore, $9 billion worth of offset opportunities, which are still to be executed. And that is a huge opportunity. But I would not look at offset as a route to becoming Atmanirbhar. There are 5 out of the 7 categories. There is TDF, there is IDX, and there is a whole lot of other initiatives that all the 3 services are taking for making India Atmanirbhar. And we don't have to depend on foreign OEMs to become Atmanirbhar. I'd like to just quote one sentence, which I often quote in my talks. And you may please note it down. At a birth of a great nation, there are no midwives. A nation does not become great because of others. A nation becomes great in spite of others. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, regarding the question, I also want to add my point of view. I do agree whatever you are saying about offset can be a start of business. It can create opportunities, but then to make it sustainable, we have to create our own technology. We have to create our own products, our own platforms. Because geography-wise, climate-wise, and also geopolitical situation of India is quite different from others. So that is the reason why the technology that we develop would be only for India. Might be if we expect a foreign product to come in India, first of all, it won't be the state of the art, the best technology that would be given to us. Second thing is, second point is, it could be, a good technology, but then how much, sustainable it is for India, how much suitable it is for India is again a question. So, in fact, I think last year I wrote an article in a daily, newspaper, All India edition. This talks about how MSMEs can create value in the whole supply chain. They did not focus on very big equipments or 101 plus 108 import ban list that we are talking about. They should be focusing on much smaller products, much smaller technologies that companies in Europe and US have developed over the years, because their aerospace and defense industry came into existence much before when India's industry started. So that is what they can do. So I would like to pose now the same question with the other 2 speakers also. And the question is again, do offset opportunity give rise to Atmanirbhar Bharat? Dr. Kresta, what is, if you are there, are you there?
Yeah,
What
I'm
do you say
very,
about this?
yeah,
What
I'm
do you
very
say
much
about
here.
it? What do you say about it?
I think it definitely gave a chance for Atmanirbhar Bharat because offset is a government policy. But MSME, how best you utilize that? That is most important. Whether that offset policy which is laid down by the government and Atmanirbhar Bharat, whether entrepreneur can get into that kind of opportunity. It is an opportunity, a realization of the opportunity. That there is a provision, yes, you can be passionate on that, you can definitely go forward, and entrepreneurship is not that just by sitting you get everything, but there is a policy laid down under the offset policy and Atmanirbhar Bharat. You put the linkage there and get the utilization for your industry, whether you are in the similar type of industry or it is in an organic growth in your industry, it's an opportunity. So it is a great opportunity for any MSME can go forward and add on with the organic growth.
Thank you, sir. And what's your opinion, Mr. Pankaj, about this?
No, I think offset policy is very important because it takes care of entry barrier, and also it makes the exposure of our MSME to outside world. So whatever they want to give us, so as Mr. Mukesh has told, yeah, they give only third level work. Yes, that's true. Nobody wants to give high level work, but at least still it gives them the opportunity to connect with the outside OEMs. But important is they learn from it quickly and make use of it and scale up. So if you do that, there's a lot of opportunity. You can do lot many things, technologies you can bring up, and it will help you to scale up lively. But you just cannot become dependent on that only, because that is just a small area. No one wants to give their IPs out. No one wants to give us the prime or the, you can say, A class or B class item to us. So that's going to be everywhere. They're all protective about that. But whatever is there coming up, you can make use of it. So even learning their systems, learning their specifications. When you work with any global OEM, in some materials, you will definitely learn their specification, how they control their systems, how they control the spec, product quality. Finally, it's everything drives to the getting a right quality. Become a more reliable, more quality supplier, and then that gives a lot of confidence to customer also. So you have opportunities to get more customer based on that as well. And parallelly, you also learn a lot, and you can increase that, scale that learnings, and do a lot more for your internal and other local support as well.
Fine, thank you. So one last question before we conclude this session is, as you know that we are supporting a lot of entrepreneurs who are either from manufacturing background or also from non-manufacturing background to enter into aerospace and defense manufacturing sector. Now, the ticket size that we get is almost 5 to 10 crore for almost most of the cases that we have. So I would like to know from all the speakers on 5 to 10 crore, excluding land, is it possible to create a difference under Atmanirbhar Bharat? Is it possible for the MSME, non-existing MSME, could have a manufacturing background, could not have a manufacturing background, but is it possible to create a sustainable, good business model? Is it possible to benefit from Atmanirbhar Bharat? I'll start with Pankaj. What do you say about it?
Yeah, I think, see, we can do that. Even we start with that. It depends on what, based on your budget, you need to choose what product or what technology you want to develop. Some technology are simple or small, that can be done. You can get equipped, but some of the larger capex, you need definitely also bigger investment as well. But you cannot say you cannot do it. You can start with that. So you identify based on your budget. So accordingly, you will have to get the resources, maybe it's manufacturing technology or the equipments or that skills. So you can choose that. But I think, yeah, 1 million or 2 billion, or let's say 5 to 7 crore, you can do a small startup. But yeah, it's always a risk to sustain with that, because as I say, I was mentioning, it takes long time for aviation to come get you returns back. So maybe 5-7 years usually it takes to come back to even ROI. So you also need to have a capability to manage those 4-5 years, your OPEX and other running businesses, because then if you have that capability, you will be able to sustain. Otherwise, mostly second or third year, you will find a working capital crunch, and that will be a biggest concern for even your technology. Without working capital, it's difficult to run any business. So it will be challenging to have that.
Dr. Krishna, what do you say? 5 to 10 crore and having nothing in the background, but then excluding land and building, can MSME start and create a difference in defense sector?
100%.
Okay.
Because it is falls within the definition of MSME, micro
Right.
and small. So there is no doubt about it. It is only that a particular entrepreneur has to be passionate in what he can do. If at all he doesn't have a technology, he can hire a person with a technology. See, so many things can be done. See, it is not that you alone have to do it. Yeah, you can only be an administrator, do a policy, and take the technology person, take one finance guy, and manage your whole show. So this is how an entrepreneurship goes on. So unless and until you mix and join and win together, you can't enterprise and grow and add revenue to your top line. So
Yes.
if you want to add revenue to the top line, you have to grow with other people and join with them and start doing it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Bhargava sir, what do you say? What is your opinion about it?
Well, 5 to 10 crore is a challenge to really create. But if the land and other things are available, you can start with some niche products, which can definitely be done with this. If you don't have any know-how today, the government is supporting through the DRDO by giving the technologies to you, and also the various programs which are there, including the investment fund with Invest India, which can give you the financial support for moving up. But if you are passionate about it, as what Jacob very rightly said, and you are committed to make things happen, because I think somebody mentioned, I think Jacob only mentioned about the fire in the belly. If you have that and you want to really succeed, nothing can stop you. And as far as the finance is concerned, it is going to be a challenge, but for starting, it is good enough. It is good enough. $1 million is good enough to start with. You can look at adequate tie-ups with today, the PSUs and the ordnance factories have also been given a mandate to handhold and support. So if you do that kind of tying up and you take up, development projects with the three services where they fund you for doing some amount of development. So taking use of all these avenues and the 5 or 10 crores that you have, you can definitely start a venture and then slowly move up the value chain, because defense is a sustainability business, and you have to be able to not only sustain but move up the value chain. And as I mentioned in my talk, make use of the academic institutions, make use of the next gen technologies that are happening, so that with the less investment you can create much more value. And that is what the industry, that is what the services and the ministry is today looking at. And if you are successful, then the DRDO, the service headquarters, they're all there to support you, to see that you can stay sustained and move up the value chain in this. So 5 to 10 crore is very much possible. What you need is a passion, what you need is dedication, and what you need is to know all these various avenues which can support you even with 5 to 10 crores to make a sustainable business model in defense and aerospace.
So thank you. So with this, I would like to conclude the session saying that there are a lot of opportunities in this sector, aerospace and defense. We have been talking and listening to various success stories, various entrepreneurs, various startup people who have raised funds very successfully. The only thing and the most important thing is to find your niche and having a fire in the belly, what the speakers also said. So with this, I would like to conclude this session and thank all the speakers, particularly for this session, Dr. Krasta, Commodore Bhargava, and Mr. Pankesh, and also the speakers of the previous sessions who gave their valuable inputs and made this event successful. We had almost 5 500 plus audience in this webinar series for aerospace and defense. We are here to support you. If you want to, associate or talk to any of the speakers, any of the experts, or even if you want to know more about any particular topic, you are free to send an email to me, vikas.mandral@solutionbuggy.com, or you can go to our website and register over there. So with this, I would also like to thank our partners, CIT, the two media partners, Divya Media Publications and Aerospace and Defense Universe, for their support in organizing this event. So I wish you good luck for your future if you want to start a business. And of course, we are there to support you. Thank you all and have a good afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vikas.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it's a privilege to be part of this panel. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mukesh. Thank you, Mr. Krishna. Take care.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Dr. Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah.